All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we're talking about a lack of patience and how it's literally killing my progress and probably yours too. So, lack of patience, what is it? I think that is pretty self-explanatory, but that is always where we start these individual podcasts. What are we talking about? What is the topic? And I just want to go a little bit more in depth to it. A lack of patience isn't just being short with your spouse or being short with your kids or not being able to delay gratification, right? Like those aren't the only forms of a lack of patience. Like for me, it literally shows up everywhere. So it shows up in my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, and my results. And so ultimately, a lack of patience is you wanting to hurry things along for some reason. You're probably discontent with your present moment, with your present life situation, and possibly even your life. Remember, in The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle differentiates between your life and your life situation. Your life situation is like your job, your family, all that good stuff. And then your life is your life force. And so a lot of us have not accepted our life, gotten in touch with our life. And so we put all of our focus on our life situation and we want to hurry up and change that so maybe we can feel our life. Regardless, that's just me hypothesizing. I'm sure that's not the only reason, but for some reason, you want to hurry things along. You want to change your life situation or run it. You're running from who you think you are because you don't like who you are. Um, any of those may apply, and there may be a lot more that applies, but you're trying to hurry things along. That is the point. So, where has it shown up in my life? So, I have two really big goals, as you know: financial freedom for myself and my family, and then raising the standard of living across the world to middle class America. Because I love to give people options and then helping them with the mindset stuff, right? So, lack of patience in my life, in my head, I'm like, okay, raising the standard of living across the world to middle class America might take longer than I have to live. So, I need to get started on it as soon as possible. Genuinely, my thoughts. And so then I'm trying to get rich fast so I can have my time freedom back so I can spend that time working on Left with Love. And in a way, I'm already working on Left with Love. Like a lot of the coaching I'm doing, a lot of the working with people, a lot of the questions I'm asking, all of that stuff is to help with Left with Love. Even the businesses I'm building are geared towards Left with Love, getting together people who have a heart for others and really want to help others, trying to help them build businesses, buy real estate, all that good stuff. So, I have thoughts about wanting to get rich faster than is normal. So switching up from thing to thing. And this is where shiny object syndrome has popped up in my life. I have been dealing with shiny object syndrome for probably the past 4 years. And it came to a point where I was like, all right, I'm going to be consistent with something. So I started this podcast. Once I started the podcast, I got it going. It was kind of on autopilot. I was spending 6 to 7 hours a week on it. I was like, okay, I need something that generates revenue now because this podcast is not taking me out of my job in the next 6 months, in the next 9 months, in the next 12 months. And there you go. Your unit of time that you measure in is also a display of a lack of patience. Some people measure time in a week. Some people measure time in a month. Some people measure time in a year. Some people measure time in 10 years. And just a hint, the longer your time horizon, the longer your unit of time, typically the more you're going to get done, the more impact you're going to create, and the more money you're going to have. Because you won't have this shiny object syndrome and you'll be able to commit to something, persist through something, even when it seems like it's not working, and then you'll get all the compounding results on the back end. So I've had a lot of thoughts about wanting to get rich faster than is normal. So switching up from thing to thing, because I was like, I need something that generates revenue now. If there's not a capability for it to generate revenue today, I need to switch from it. And every time I found an opportunity that was more likely to generate revenue now, I would jump to it. Of course, that is a little silly because what's really behind revenue is skills. And so, in order to develop the skills you need to produce revenue in a certain thing, you need to be doing that thing for long enough to get that skill and hone it. And so, a lot of it is just sticking with something that probably will work or has. The thing is, when you're doing like a startup type of thing, there are chances that it won't work. Like maybe you don't have product market fit. So that's when it's hard. But if you have something that's proven, like being a realtor, being a financial services agent, working for a lot of MLMs. I know people don't like pyramid schemes, but your whole life is a pyramid scheme. So MLMs have worked for a lot of people. I'm gonna cancel for saying that, but there I said it. uh, or just being an entrepreneur, like buying a business, buying real estate, all those things work, right? And when you're doing something that you know works, you just have to have the patience to work it, if that makes sense. And so switching up from thing to thing will keep you in failure, basically, because you never take the time to actually develop the skills because you're never willing to do the hard work. And so that's something I've been struggling with for a while that now I'm coming back to, and I'm like, okay, focus, focus, and be consistent. And another thing that was keeping me from being consistent that was rooted in a lack of patience was me going too big. So I would get irritated when stuff didn't work, and stuff wouldn't work because I had unrealistic expectations because I went too big too fast. So for somebody who made $10 million to go make $1 million, who has made $10 million in a year, to set a goal to make $1 million in a year, they can do that. It's very simple for them. It's kind of a baby step. But for me, who has never cleared six figures in a year, to go and be like, I want to make $1 million this year, or I want to help 120 people do this. Or like when I was a realtor, I was like, I want to help 120 people sell houses in the next 8 months. Hadn't helped one person sell a house. Hadn't listed a house for anybody. And so like I would set my goals too big, and I would set my actions too big, and I wouldn't be able to be consistent with that action. And I did this because of the 10x rule by Grant Cardone. But really, what the 10x rule was like, expand your thinking, expand your action, but bring it to this moment. So take massive action for where you're at right now. Like massive action for somebody who closes 100 houses a year might be to close 150 houses a year. But massive action for somebody who has never closed a house would be to close one house. Just do what you need to do to close one house. And that is big for you. And maybe have a goal of 10x closing 10 houses. That's more than 10x. That's like infinite x because you've closed 0 houses. So, yeah, I went too big, too fast, and that was because of a lack of patience because I wanted to get rich fast. So I wanted to get rich fast, thought too big, too fast, took too much action too fast, and I couldn't be consistent with it. And consistency was always the thing I was missing. So as I've been reworking my daily KPIs, actually I'll talk about that in a little bit. I got a little bit more to talk about where it has shown up in my life. Um, yeah, basically I would get irritated when stuff didn't work because of my expectations because I went too big too fast and I was like, I need this to generate revenue right now and it should be generating 10,000, 20,000, $50,000 a month right now. And it's like, that's silly. Like literally sit down, calm down, you're being silly. um you haven't even been consistent with anything for a month, for 3 months, for a year, for 2 years. Be consistent for 5 years and then look back and say, oh, that probably didn't work. And if you're not willing to do that, you probably don't have a good enough opportunity, so find a better one. And yeah, just not setting myself up for that consistent grind because there was no way I could be consistent with what I wanted to do. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and that. That's like six things. And they're all like they all take time, right? They all take energy. And I'm gonna do that for the next 5 years? No, I was only thinking I'm gonna do this for a month, and if I don't see results, I'll change. So you gotta set yourself up to be like, I'm gonna do this for the next 5 years, and I know that doing these actions will lead to this result. And if it doesn't, after a year, I'll reevaluate. After 2 years, I'll adjust. You got to like give it time to work because there was times when I had done a flurry of action. I was like, I'm going to shoot out 100 DMs a day about this podcasting mastermind. I did that 9 months ago. 9 months later, so about 8 months later, actually, because this happened a couple weeks ago, somebody hits me up and like, hey, is that podcasting mastermind still live? But I shot out 100 DMs probably 2 weeks straight. And then I said, nobody's interested. This rejection hurts. I'm not seeing success quick enough. The podcasting mastermind must not be it. And then 8 months later, somebody hits me up wanting to join the mastermind. Isn't that insane? Just stick with the things that you're going after, and you will get clients. You will see progress. Like maybe it's not business for you. So you will see progress if you stick with it for long enough. And so generate the character trait of patience and consistency. And really, that's what I wanted to do with this podcast. The podcast was more about saying, I'm going to post something on this podcast every day. That's what's going to happen because I wanted to build that characteristic in myself. And I wanted to take it into business and say, okay, now I focus on the podcast every day. What can I do every day for my business? And it's like, well, I can send out this many DMs because that's what my coaching program told me to do. I can do this many friend requests. I can post a piece of content daily. That's geared more towards business and generating leads. Like this podcast isn't necessarily geared towards generating leads, but when I'm posting content on social media that's generating leads in a year, I will have generated leads. So it was content DMs, and this is where it has shown up in my life now, right? The podcast is where it started. I was like, I have a lack of patience. I have a lack of consistency. There's something that I'm going to do that I know I can do every day for the next 10 years, and I'm going to do it because I know if I do that, I know if it's consistently adding value to people, there's no way it doesn't come back to me. The podcast is adding value to people, adding value to my guests. I'm growing my network, opportunities come and go, and I'm like, there's no way I do this thing for 10 years and it doesn't blow up. There's no way I do this thing for 20 years. In 50 years, this podcast will be bigger than it is now. So if I can post daily for 50 years, I will it'll be good. It'll be good for me, right? So, just kind of moving forward from the podcast, I went to daily KPIs for my businesses that I want to start. So, what I really want to do is help small groups in churches build very intimate community. And we're going to do that by bearing burdens together. And one of those burdens that we're going to bear together is the financial burden. So I feel like that is something that's really neglected in the church. So I was like, what can I do every day to help small groups build intimate community by bearing burdens together? Well, first, I need to talk to small groups. And this is a product that I'm selling. And so I need to sell it to people. And so it was like, I'm going to cold call 30 churches a day. That is it. And then it's like I have that's my higher ticket mastermind. Then I have the lower ticket 6-week kind of course and my course that I'm selling. And I'm like, to do that, I'm shooting out 30 DMs and 100 friend requests. I'm shooting out 100 emails to churches on like a mail merge type of thing. It takes a minute. It takes a minute to click a button and you send out 100 emails, right? So I'm posting daily content. And then for real estate, it was funny. My KPI was to, what was it? It was to put out an offer a day. But I found myself not able to put out an offer a day because I was scared because I didn't have capital. So then I switched my KPI, my key performance indicator, my daily action, my daily habit. I switched it to working the 20 people that will go into real estate with me so that I'm well capitalized. Because if I was well capitalized, I wouldn't have a problem putting out um, an offer a day. Like I put out 2 offers, I'll put out 3 offers a day. I don't care. But I wasn't well capitalized. And so every time a realtor would be like, are you pre-approved? Or do you have the money to close? Or maybe I would get myself in a position where it's time to close and I'm not well capitalized. And so then I'm like self-sabotaging basically. And so I focused on what was the next step I needed. And the next step I needed was money. And so now I'm going to get together a group of people who can contribute $500 to $1,000 a month. And we're going to buy $100,000 properties, quadplexes in Cleveland. You can buy for $100,000. So if I get 20 people, we each put in 1K, we'll have 20K. We'll be able to buy a quadplex every month. And so that's the type of machine that I want to build. And so that then I'll be able to fulfill my KPI of submitting an offer a day. So just so you guys can get an idea, I kind of just blew through that in a flurry of information. So I'm just going to go over my KPIs with you real quick. So again, it's shown up in my life. I've had thoughts and criticisms and shiny object syndrome and dissatisfaction and expectations all built on the belief of lack of patience. Like, I need to hurry this thing along. I realized that I needed patience. I needed consistency in my life. And part of that was like, I need to be doing stuff that I can do every day and enjoy every day because I need to enjoy the process, right? So I started this podcast. I was like, I love helping people with their dreams and goals. This podcast will do that, posting the daily podcast. Then I said, what daily actions can I do right now with my financial situation, with the technology I have, with all the assets I have at my disposal? What can I do right now to generate revenue? It was post daily content that will generate business, 30 DMs per day on Facebook, and growing my friends list on Facebook so that my daily content gets traffic, 100 emails to churches per day just to get those cold touch points, 30 cold calls to churches per day just to actually sell over the phone and talk to people, and then work my list of 20 people to join my LLC so we can start buying up cash flowing properties together and compounding that wealth over time. And so if we do all of that, and I do all of that every day for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years, there's no way that I haven't hit my financial goals. And if I can do that, I've hit my financial goals by year 5, year 10, year 20, whatever it may be. I'm not focused on when I do it because I know that I will do it if I keep with these KPIs. So I hit my financial goals, and then I start working left with love and I generate some new KPIs. For if I do these KPIs for the next 30 years, there's no way that we haven't progressed towards unifying nonprofits around the world to raise the standard of living to middle class America across the world. There's no way we don't do that. So then I just create KPIs based on that. And so that's really where it has shown up in my life. Both the lack of patience and the desire to be patient, desire to be consistent. What small steps can you do every day? Focus on those steps. And when you complete those steps, call it a win. And then how you guys can apply it to your life. First, self awareness, always. Ask yourself why you're in such a rush. For me, um, I think I need to get money quick because it's going to take me a long time to achieve my other goal. So I need to be working on it as much as possible, as soon as possible. I also know that while my time is abundant, my parents' time is running out, and I want to retire them and take away some of that financial stress from their life before they're too old to really enjoy it. And they're already getting up there. And so I'm feeling like in the next 2 years, next 3 years, I need to be at that point so I can really help them out. So that's another reason why I've been in such a rush. I've just been focused on other people, focused on things I can't control, right? And while those are admirable, if it stresses me out and slows me down in the process, how helpful is it really? And so I need to enjoy my life and I need to understand that it's not up to me to make them happy and I can do all I can to help them. But um, it should not take away from my life trying to make their life better, if that makes sense. However, love is sacrifice. So at the same token, it's like I should be able to do these things and it not take away from my life because I'm patient, because I'm graceful with myself. So it's not just patience. There's always there's also some grace that I need to have for myself, some love that I need to have for myself. But um, just in general, we're talking about patience for this podcast. That's how it showed up in my life. That's where I want it to show up in my life. I don't want lack of patience. I want to move with patience, with which creates a type of peace about what I'm doing every day. And so, yeah, thank you guys for listening to this show. It took a little longer than I thought to get through this, but it's a big thing. And I think it's something that affects a lot of entrepreneurs. Alex Hormozy talks about it all the time. Extend your time horizon. If you can extend your time horizon and you can do things for an unreasonable amount of time consistently, you'll see yourself ahead of the curve when it comes to a lot of people. So, on that note, if you guys are listening to this and you loved it, go ahead and shoot it to 1 to 3 people. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes if you really liked it. And yeah, go to workwithtimmydouglas.com. We're always looking for people to join the Creative Dealmakers Mastermind. Also, just the Clarity Coaching program. If you're a Christian or if you're not a Christian and you don't mind, me talking about scripture, feel free to join those programs and we will get you hooked up with some clarity for what you're meant to do in your life and some action that you can do to make that clarity come to fruition and having a baseline of patience for it all. On that note, thank you guys for listening and we're out.